Good day, Gambia. Welcome to yet another edition of D's Take. And I just wonder, have we as Gambians ever wondered why we can't build roads? We can't build as many hospitals as we want to build. We can't fix our archaic public infrastructure, especially that of our hospitals. Have we ever just take a minute and reflect why we're not doing this? Well, it's a simple answer. Lack of resources. And resources, I mean financial resources. And we need to ask ourselves, why are we lack of resources? Is it that we don't generate enough? Or is it that our expenditures in other things are taking away monies that we could have used to develop our country? And the answer is, we're not generating enough because we're paying for other things. See, debt has been Gambia's biggest burden, and our debt component is divided into two. Domestic, that's funds owed to people and institutions within the Gambia by the government, and normally that is through or in the form of T-bills. Secondly is our external debt obligations to creditors such as the World Bank, the IDB, the ADB, and other Paris Club members. What are the implications of this? Well, what debt does to the Gambian economy is that we raise taxes. And once we raise taxes, as part of our expenditures is that we pay what's outstanding to creditors. And that takes away our disposable income. So basically, it means Gambia's debt to GDP ratio is not only unsustainable, but a burden and an opportunity cost to economic growth and prosperity of this country. Having said that, I do hope that going forward, we will not only rationalize our debt profile, but we will tame, reduce, and make sure that Gambia lives within a sustainable debt framework. Is that possible? Yes, because as it is, we have a debt stress. Now, we are talking about development. People are talking about fixing Nyang. People are talking about fixing the roads so that we can have more traffic and a seamless flow of traffic. We're talking about other developmental projects. But this is the million-dollar question. How are we going to fund this? Equity or debt? And this is why we are calling for PPIs. And when we say PPIs, just not the word PPI as in a public-private initiative, but a public-private initiative where the private sector comes with, its own funds rather than getting government guarantees. Because Nyang got to the stage that it is because of sovereign guarantees. And these sovereign guarantees have now fall back to me and you by way of the government, and the public has to pay for these sovereign guarantees. Of late, we have seen Nyang's debt being transferred to the central government from the public enterprise to the government. Yes, on one hand, it frees up Nyang's books. On the other hand, it's a debt burden choking me and you. So, is that the type of development we want going forward? The answer is no. Are we looking for strategic partners who are still going to ask us for sovereign guarantees? I think the answer is no. Should we engage prospective partners who are looking to get solid sovereign guarantees from us? Well, as a policymaker, I would not have if I were in the shoes of the people who are deciding how and what to do. See, development comes at a cost, and we should weigh the greater objective of developing our country, the Gambia, and see whether the cost outweighs the benefits or the benefits are less than what it will cost us. the previous government have mortgaged the lives of this generation to debt, meaning the next generation of Gambians will pay for some of the expenditures that we have committed ourselves into. Moving forward, that's not what we want for the Gambia, and I think it's incumbent on all of us to make sure that we have an instituted debt ceiling at the Ministry of Finance by way of legislation from the Parliament to say that the government of the Gambia at no one point can have debt more than 10% of its previous year's GDP. See, that debt ceiling will not only tame government's appetite to spend, but it will curb the interest of government to venture into projects that may be deemed necessary and important, but economically unsustainable, as far as most development practitioners will see it. So I therefore urge the government, I know that they're reducing public borrowing, it's fine, but that's public borrowing to finance the budget. But giving out sovereign guarantees for development projects takes us back to square one, and we don't want to be in square one. We want to move on. See, you can't be fair to this nation if we're exposing this nation to a debt stress. We owe it to subsequent generation of Gambians to make sure that we give them an opportunity to thrive. And that opportunity cannot be given to them if we're leveraging their future on present value debt. And that's where the Ministry of Finance should take a critical lead in not only taming debt, but advising the executive appropriately on developmental projects. People have been talking about this new floating power plant as an emergency measure. Is the government of the Gambia issuing sovereign guarantees? If so, I have a problem with it. See, having light is one thing. Having light at the detriment of a stable development trajectory is also a problem for our nation. And we need to, for once, put our house in order. And it starts with taming our debt, having the proper perspective to development. See, development is not immediate, but is a medium term that's sustainable with a tangible, a feasible, a bulletproof, check-through blueprint. So emotional decisions that are ad hoc, we don't have power, we need power, oh no. That's not the public policy decisions we want. We want a matrix that will take a holistic approach of what's wrong with this country and find a sustainable solution that will give us what we want, yet still reduce the debt burden to the Gambia. The higher our debt, the missed opportunity we have to finance schools, hospitals, roads, and other public infrastructure that are critical to our development aspirations. Having electricity is a good thing, but at what cost? And that word, what cost, should be very important to all our decision makers. So these saw it fit to enlighten Gambians and expose Gambians and bring to the table and to the debate once more the issue of debt, the issue of debt sustainability, and the issue of where Gambia found itself as it relates to its debt. And yes, kudos to the government for reducing public borrowing as a means of deficit financing and financing the budget. But a public enterprise is also a government. It's a quasi-government institution. Therefore, if they contract debt, the person receiving or at least giving out credit has recourse to the government of the Gambia should in case that public enterprise fails. And this is exactly what happened to NAWEC, and that's why the government of the Gambia has assumed debt belonging to NAWEC, and this is a burden. And I do hope politicians will not look for politically expedient solutions to our festering developmental aspirations, our festering developmental shortcomings. I always tell people that the most I expect from this government is to give us a blueprint and build solid institutions, create great laws so that subsequent governments can start the rebuilding of this nation. But if they think they're the builders or the rebuilders of Gambia, they're causing Gambia undue harm. And I don't think that's what they want, or wanted rather, because they believed in the Gambia. They sold us an idea that we all bought into, and I think going forward that idea needs to be preserved, that idea needs to be championed, and that idea is the only thing that will take Gambia ahead. So I urge this government to come up with a debt ceiling. Make sure that the Ministry of Finance has an instrument, a legal instrument, that will curb their appetite should in case they want to borrow. As we all know it now, their appetite for borrowing has been tamed. Hence, the reduction of the borrowing rates and the reduce of interest rates in the market. So this was Dee's take, just giving you a thing or two about domestic debt, about debt in general, and Gambia's debt portfolio, and how to make sure we have a sustainable debt. Sustainable debt gives us leeway, gives us little extra cash to do other projects. But if we have a debt to GDP ratio that's so high, we spend all our taxable income on paying debt rather than building Gambia. This was Dee's take. Until I come your way again, thank you, and thank you so much.